Then stage 7 was very interesting for me. I think there was the biggest win. I never told this story to anyone. Oh, it was the worst thing what could happen to me. Like, I just wanted to quit because I was not there.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming. It's honestly an honor to have you guys and to have Demi, our first female athlete entrepreneur, with Apex. Very important for us and what we're doing, our movement. But, this is our third episode in Shaping Legends. As the name states, that's what we want to see. You're a legend of the sport. We want to see what shapes you, what drives you. And it's really good to be here. I know, Jan, you too, and I know how important you are for Demi and for what she's achieved. And I think that's what we will also want to dive deep here. And yeah, I think, let's start where, at the pinnacle of what you are, which is an athlete, right? And I think it would be really great to understand what got you into cycling. I know it was a bit of a later side of your life, right?
Yes.
It wasn't, but tell us a bit about that.
So yeah, how I came in cycling, that's actually a long story because I always had a big connection already with the bike. I really enjoyed riding the bike already when I was young, but it needed to wait a little bit before I started to do real cycling races. Also, at the moment that I was finally doing real cycling races, I had the feeling I was getting already a bit too old to become a professional. But then I met Jan, and actually Jan kind of reminded me to my dreams. And then in the end, I ended up in the professional peloton again. So yeah, it's been a big journey through the years, like how a dream was there as a kid, but then it disappeared, but came back again. So it's really special for me that I'm now a professional cyclist.
I saw that you went back cycling in 2017. So now in 2023, you won the Tour de France, and in 2024, La Vuelta.
Yeah.
So how, like you say, you went back into your passion, but we also saw in your background that you were doing ice skating, then you were working as a florist as well.
Yeah.
As a florist?
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, when I was a kid, then I had already this passion for the bike. And then at one point I was doing in the summer this tour club. So every Sunday we were riding like a nice lap with a little group. And then my mom said in the winter, but now we will need to do something in the winter because in Holland, in the winter, it's not so nice to ride a bike. So then she said, you want to learn how to ski or how to skate, or to ice skate? And then I was ice skating, because in the winter we have frozen lakes in Holland, so it's useful, So then I started that, and I started to do races at one point, and then I started to like the ice skating actually a little bit more, also because of the group of people, the friends I had there. It was a really nice group of people. So at one point I ended up a little bit more in the winter focusing on the ice skating, and not thinking too much about cycling in the summers. So my seasons in the summers were also pretty short, because I skated all the way to the end of the season, and then I only stepped on my bike. So I was always a bit behind all the other girls.
And do you think that made you a better cyclist? Having the ice skating, background. Do you think that develops certain stuff in you that makes you a better cyclist?
I think
maybe that's the trick.
Yeah, I think for sure it's helpful to do other sports when you're younger already, because you learn a lot about movement. Especially cycling is quite a stiff movement. You're just on the bike and pedal very hard. I mean, you use all the core and stuff like that. But if you're always used to only ride the bike, I think you're not so aware of that.
Yeah.
But in ice skating, it's so much about technique and like the movement, the feeling of your body on the ice. So I think there you learn that, and then you can also bring that to the bike, so you understand it a bit more.
I mean, I'm not an expert in cycling, and Guzman is much more, and I know Jan, you cycle too, but clearly, I think at that level, and at how intense that is for you guys, you need to be at one with the bike, right? So there needs to be some type of sort of balance and understanding of your body that will allow you to be more efficient when you're going up the hill, and so definitely technique should play a role there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's important. And
what definitely helped as well is that you worked as a florist before.
How you mean?
No, but
because the life.
Yeah, you worked, you had discipline.
But
and
I even at one point I had I almost started my own company together with a friend. Yeah. But then, so we did a few jobs in the flower world, like we did 3 weddings. But then she bought herself the shop of her owner where she was working, because he quit, and then she just took it over from him. So then we grew a little bit apart, and then I started to become more involved in cycling. But there I was already almost entrepreneur. So yeah, it's true. The flowers learned me a lot about life, also like how to work hard. My dad, he has his own company, and he grows flowers. So as a kid, I always was used to work in his greenhouses. If I had holidays or in the weekends, for example. So I always had this mindset already from my parents that you need to work hard and that if you have a passion, you need to go for it. So yeah.
And also, Jan, you said that you discovered like Demi was going really fast with the bike, or recovering really good from the sessions. Like why were you training together, and what happened there that you were training together and suddenly she has a huge potential to start racing in cycling? Like, how did all that happen?
So we met each other through Instagram. Demi Slide. Demi Slide in DM. So.
No, you and mine.
Yeah, we have a discussion there. But
so who sent the first DM?
Yeah, but you liked a picture of me.
But you wanted to be a manager.
So
you gave the hint.
Yes.
Perfect.
So and I was like obviously looking at who liked me. And then I remember this is a real story, besides my mother on a terrace enjoying coffee or something. And I said, look, I need to find a girl like this who does...
But you didn't know each other?
No, didn't know, but I saw on her profile she was ice skating, she was doing inline skating on the road and doing cycling or whatever. I thought that's very interesting, and flowers and stuff. She looked nice. So I said that, and then we got into conversation. And then I think half year later or something, we were training together in the Ardennes. And we rode, I think, for 5.5 hours with 3,000 meters of elevation, because I was
that's hard.
I was an amateur cyclist at the highest amateur level, not a very good one, but I was just there training for the race. And then I pushed Demi on every climb uphill because she was not strong enough yet. She was really
I had hunger
angry.
flat on all sides. You probably have also had a hunger flat in the past before. It's the worst feeling. If you're so empty, you just can't do nothing.
You need to eat your carbs on the bike.
It was horrible.
So next morning we get out of bed, and then I was like, I stiff legs, you got the feeling. And I said to Demi, how are your legs? And she said, I don't feel anything. Not that much. So I thought, okay, that's crazy. And I remembered also that we had one day, it was pouring rain. That was that day. So her legs were better than mine. And then it was pouring rain. We still went out for 2.5 hours, I think. And Demi was like, during the ride, we were soaked wet. And she was like, hey, you see the flowers there, and you see that.
Like focused and,
and enjoying. And I thought, whoa, this has to be
there's something different here.
Some different. I mean, you have the ability to recover very fast. you have the ability to enjoy also in very tough conditions. Why not? Give it a shot. So.
And what did you? Is there any particular conversation that you remember that you guys had that sort of clicked, and you said, you know what, I should try it. I should go for it.
Yeah, you mean like when he pushed me a little bit back towards.
When he started to see, when Jana started to see, but maybe you're in your head, as you were saying, you thought it's a bit too late, I guess.
Yes.
Right?
So I remember that conversation really well, because I was loving ice skating still, but that winter I had a bad season on the ice, and then I remember, I think it was in Switzerland. I was the first time in Switzerland there, I think, and then Jan said at one point, like, why you just don't stop ice skating and just focus more on cycling, go on training camp in the winter and see what you can do there. And then, first of all, I was really annoyed by him saying that I needed to stop ice skating, because I was like, no, fuck you, I decide myself if I stop or not. But then later on, I think it started to, and that's always how it works with me. Like in the beginning, I'm a little bit like I don't like what he's saying sometimes, but then I start thinking about it and I'm like, maybe he has a point there. So then it started to go in my mind, and then actually I did it, and it worked out.
I guess it goes down to you trust his judgment at the end of the day, right? And I think that highlights a little bit your partnership, right? And how you guys work together, not just, of course, the beginning, the career side, the business side, but you're also going to get married. So can you tell us a bit about, how that dynamic works and how you're able to make everything work so well? Because I guess it's not easy.
Yeah, good question. Because we also sometimes still struggle with that, like business-wise. Because in the end, you're all not always want to talk about business, of course. So then you just need to make somewhere time for that, and that can be sometimes a little bit a challenge. But on the other hand, also it's the power, because he knows me so well, and the other way around, that you also need less conversation about things sometimes. He knows like what I really like and what partnerships fit with me, what I really want. Also, he knows I'm very focused towards my goals, so nothing should be really in the way, for example. And that helps me a lot. Not that I need to always explain like how it works for me. I think that helps.
How are those, like before that, how are those steps, like when you start to become a professional cyclist? How are those steps of like signing with a team, start to sign with brands, and like how do you, because I think all this happened like in a short amount of time. Like normally a professional athlete comes like to a sport like from a while ago. And I think your career like is very squeezed, like how you went up, like how did you manage all those steps together, like to work on all that?
So the moment that we had this conversation that I should stop ice skating was, I think,
2017.
Yeah, the end of 2017, I think.
Yeah.
So, and then 2019, I had my first pro contract.
Your first race, when was that?
Like my first pro race?
Yeah, pro race.
Yeah, then
February
it only comes out.
2019, I think.
Yes.
February.
No, I think it was only Binda, so March. March.
So in 2018, in 18, you're training, but then how do you, work yourself to a contract, right? So you just, how does that work? You sign up for races, you talk to, how does that work?
I think it also grows naturally, talking about the steps, because I was, when we met each other, then I said already on the first date, I remember that I was going to Switzerland. I had my mind made up and I said, I'm going to live in Switzerland, great mountains, I love mountaineering, etc., etc. So then Demi said, okay, cool, interesting. We did 1 year of, we were 1 year together in Holland, and then I moved to Switzerland. And then obviously we saw each other from time to time, not. But if you were there in Switzerland, I was always free. I had always my job. I had a job in the hospital, a whole thing there going on. But I always took holidays and we were together. And then we did so much exercising and stuff like that. So you become also stronger if you do that. And that was in the year 2017, 2018. And then you got a last place on, I think, it's also like there's so many things of luck or you can't really, but looking back, you have had luck in some parts maybe. That's so a friend of you said, hey, can she also join the team or something? And then you joined the team and you had the ability to race a few pro races. But then your mindset was
2018, the club team.
It was 2018, but your mind was already made up that you want to try to become a pro cyclist, I think. And that's very important to know, I think, because you targeted those races, you wanted to be good there. And I mean, there were also races where I think Demi was not strong enough yet. But in cycling, you have all the cars behind with the team coaches and principals. And then Demi was, for example, on a hilly race, always losing contact with the peloton. And then she stayed in between the cars. And then she came back again after the hill or something like that. So the principals or the team coaches have had thought probably like, oh, who is that girl? She's here the whole time. She's
getting dropped, coming back.
So you were
getting dropped, coming back.
So you were fast going down?
Yes.
So they see that the character and then then there was some interest, I think, because then you had very good results.
Yeah, then I had some good results. So then it went fast.
Do you remember that first good result?
Yeah, I think like it was not directly a win, for example. So the first good results were like some podiums, a third place, for example, in a sprint. That was something really cool, of course. But then when I joined my first year with the pro team, then actually there was one turning point that I really knew this was something for me. Like that was the first World Tour race, Binda. There I attacked in the final, and it was a really good attack. I stayed pretty long out, but I wasn't strong enough to finish it. So I was already like, it was already special to ride in front of the bunch and being out. Like I was new in the peloton. Everybody had something like, who is she? Like, but then pretty short after, I did the 3 races, the Ardennes. So Amstel Gold Race, Flèche Wallonne and Liège. In Amstel Gold Race, I became 7th. So that was already really nice. And then in Flèche, I became 5th. And then in Liège, 3rd. So
clearly progression.
Yes, and also it's like
Very
in 1
steady.
week, three races. So if you're so new to the sport and you become every race better, then you have talent, because normally you get less. So that 3rd place in Liège for me, that was really special.
And for example, in that sequence, right, 7th, 5th, 3rd, would you say you were learning each race and you were sort of figuring out it was like race management, mental? Because I think with cycling, again, I'm not an expert, but I've been following it more and more. And there's a lot of strategy side, right?
Yeah.
When to attack, when not to attack, how to. Is that sort of what you were learning? So that racecraft that you were,
I could do already pretty good because I have cycled since I was 16. Then in a bunch like club races, so I was already a bit used to riding in a peloton. But this learning curve went really fast with me in that 1 week because I really understand it. Like I remember that 7th place in Amstel, I wasn't even happy about it because I made a stupid mistake in the final. So I even had the feeling I could go for a 3rd place there, and then I ended up 7th. So I was angry at myself. So there I was really fast learner. I always got really...
The mistake was that you pulled all the way in the wind, I think, and everybody was on your wheel.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah. So that was the mistake. So then in Flèche, for example, I didn't do that. And then it's also a different race, so it's less uphill, of course. But I really started to... And also the belief, it also did grow for sure. So I think that was also a really important side.
But then on the business side, you were like contracted for a couple of €100 a month at the beginning, so you couldn't make money of it at that time. maybe a couple.
When did you realize you guys realized that you were gonna dedicate to this like full time? Like
Yeah, I think already
always.
when I was still club rider. So this year, 2018, before I became pro, when I went already to Switzerland sometimes, I was in that year working still as a florist. But then I also realized, okay, this is not possible anymore.
Yeah.
So in that year, I was not earning anything because I was a club rider. So in that year, I decided I should stop working. I was working at 2 flower shops, and also I did some really cool events sometimes. So in that year, I quit with one job, and then I quit with the other job because also it was difficult, like I wanted to go again 2 weeks on a training camp. So then she needed to find someone else for in the shops. So at one point I realized this was not possible anymore. So I quit working, but I had no income at all. So this was a scary moment. But yeah, there I showed already like my dedication, because I dared to risk it all to become a pro.
And from there till winning Tour de France, for example, how is like all the steps and like when did you start signing like good contracts and like how?
So yeah, 2 years I was at this pro team, and then I signed the Team SD Works Pro Time, which I've been riding now for the last 4 years. And that was, of course, already directly a really big step up. And that was also, I came actually in the right moment in women's cycling. Like my first year, I still earned like this few €100 in a month. Like I
Your
could
first
not live.
professional contract, right?
Yes.
It was still.
I still remember it. The first offer was 250 a month euro.
And that was a professional contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we did sign for a
And I became
250,
30
100.
years. Like
250 euro a month. So you cannot live from it.
Exactly.
1 year.
So how is that?
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
So
get a
this-
bike, you get a jersey.
yes. So this is very
And
interesting.
a boyfriend,
of
no?
course. Huh?
Sorry?
And a boyfriend. And then
Yeah, he was my big supporter at that time.
I was the sponsor.
Yes. No, but
full time.
for me it's really special, because I've seen it all, like I came in that period in cycling, and since then it growed so fast. So that's really cool to see. Also, like 2019, that 3rd place in Liège, it's not even on camera. Like you cannot see it back because there's no footage
wasn't,
from
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You only see like two seconds after the finish that I come over and that you see me totally like smashed and what happened? But you don't even see this on like you cannot see it. So, and that's one of the biggest races in the world. It's
I think also then you got that contract, very small, and then you had that achievements, and then they broke it open, obviously. Then
Yeah.
you earned some money, I think a little bit more than 1,000 a month or something. And then you do that a couple of years, but it was never about the money. And that's also, I think, powerful, because nowadays you have also young athletes who want to join because there is money.
Yeah.
That's, I think, it is important, and of course it should be important, but it should not be the main reason that you do it. You want it always to be the best.
yeah.
And if you aim to be the best, you are maybe not gonna make it, but you will be good probably. And if you have that mindset, so
I guess it's always the balance, and I agree. It's the story, but at the end of the day, if you know there's a real professional career out there, that is possible, and particularly for women, right? And I think we will want to ask and understand as well what you represent for women out there. But if there isn't at least the hope that you can, that many people will probably drop out of, and I think the sport in itself loses in a way. So I think it's, yes, you want the passion and the ambition and doing it for the sport and for the result, but at the end of the day, you need to, and Demi will only be better if doesn't have to think how other ways to
No,
make
true.
more money, right? I think
Like it's for the whole level, because
Yeah,
at one
exactly.
point, like still 80% of the peloton was working a job next to their cycling career because they needed to. So yeah, it was really important for women's cycling that there were gonna happen changes, and now it is. So now I think
what is the difference there? So what is women's cycling in 2019 when you started, And what is it today? You know, if you look at
Yeah.
Peloton, you know, is everyone professional now? What's the situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, the big change was also in 2020. So in 2019, when you become a pro, in 2020 they started the World Tour, where you had a minimum wage. And so the UCI said, hey, there should be a minimum wage. And I think that
and
was
they made
already
rules like with live broadcasting.
Yeah, live broadcasting, there should be for the World Tour race.
Yeah.
Then they said you have to
At
have
least 30 minutes. The
at
last
least
30
30
minutes of the race
yeah.
should be on TV, I think.
Yeah,
Like that.
something like that. So that all helped, obviously. And then you also have the forecast as an athlete, or had to see from, hey, this is growing and this is a thing. But if you compare it to where women's cycling is now, it's
Yeah.
you cannot compare.
And that's also
it's
then.
unbelievable.
So that was a big step that they made these rules from live broadcasting and a minimum. But then later also we got the Tour de France back, was really important.
Yeah.
But also, for example, we were always starting, for example, the big races, Tour of Flanders or these classics, always riding before the men. So very early in the morning. We were on the start
Nobody's
line
there,
at
nobody's-
8:30.
Yeah.
Like 8:30, we were on the start line. It was horrible because it was also cold in that in the spring. So nobody there, and maybe some spectators who came already for the men. They came a little bit early for us, but then they switched it. So 2 years ago, I think Flanders started with
3
it.
years ago. Yeah.
They put us after the men. And that was great,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, because all the supporters for the men were already along the sidelines. Everybody behind the TV were already watching the men, and then the men were finished, and then we came. So everybody stayed. So I think this was also a very
Yeah,
important switch. And then we started to switch a little bit more to have our own events. So the Tour de France, for example. So yeah,
Yeah, Tour de France was obviously the big game changer,
Yes.
I think, because you had the one-day race. And I still remember Demi had great achievements. But at one time you were third, I think, on the one-day race of the Tour de France that you had then. And then you already saw from, that's making a lot of noise.
yeah, it was
And then
different.
a year later, I think you won it, the one-day race of the Tour de France. And then you thought, whoa, okay, this is totally different because it just has the brand Tour de France
Yeah.
Obviously.
on it.
But then
So-
still there was a struggle because this was during the men Tour de France. They picked just one random day,
Okay,
which
okay.
we also were racing. So then we were
Yeah.
racing before them and we finished, and then the men came on this course. So I won, for example, this race where was it again? I don't know, remember.
In Po, or no,
yeah,
not in
no,
Po.
no.
In Nietzsche, I think. Oh, no, you
So
were third
I
in
won
Nietzsche.
this race, but then I remember I was sitting in the press conference, like after you need to go to the media to talk about it. Nobody there, because they all left for the men. Like they rushed to
this
watch
is
what
it.
happened was to the men. So there is already this struggle also that, yeah, we were still not important enough because the men were still racing. So that was more important. So now it's so cool that we have our own Tour de France because all the media is
And
there.
where it is today, do you still think? Of course, it can grow, and I'm sure there's a lot of space to grow. But where do you see women cycling going in the future in terms of? Do you think the product has to be different? Because I know you have 20-something days. For example, in the Tour de France for the men, you have 8-9 days on the women's. Is it something that you think makes sense? Will it still have different ways for the product to change? Because we look at we invest in men's sports, women's sports, and many times I think the mistake that we see with women's sport is that you think you want to capture male audience, right? You need to create a product that it's more appealing for women, because at the end of the day, it's performed by women at its highest peak, and in the beginning at least to be more consumed by women, right? So yes, it's football, it's cycling, but sometimes the product should be a bit different.
Yeah.
Do you think that today it's already like this, or it should still change in a certain way?
So no, I really agree. Like sometimes you're too focused on copying everything from the men to the women's side, and I think now we also should be very proud on what we have on the women's side. Like by us, the races are a bit shorter, the teams are maybe a bit smaller. So the races are just different. And I hear so often that people who are watching the races, they say like, the women's races are so much more interesting to watch for me than the men's races. And I heard it so often. So for me, it's something really cool. Yeah. And then also you ask like, why? Yeah, I don't know. It's way more action and it's less controlled. So, and that's true because the races are shorter, so we start directly from the beginning to attack, for example, and the teams are a little bit less big, so we cannot put 2 riders the whole day in the front to control it. Although it's going a little bit to that side now already a bit, but also because our races are getting longer and longer and longer because they want to, they think they need to make it the same as the men. And I think there sometimes we're a bit mistaken for having like everything the same or the same chances. Yeah. Like the same chances, I mean, that we have live broadcast, like the whole race, for example, that we have a good salary, good prize money, so that we can live for our sport. I think that is something what we need to focus on and not make everything the same. And what you say, like also for the sponsors, I think, we should focus a bit more on attracting sponsors focused on women's, for example, brands like Charlotte Tilbury. Those brands, I think it's nice if you can attract them in women's cycling because we're different.
They are betting a lot because I see them always with Charlotte Tilbury with Formula One, or doing a lot of activation. They have a car with the whole their own livery. Yeah. But talking about that side, you have a very interesting deal with Nike. Definitely pioneering, and again, another great example of what you've been achieving. And I think that's it's important for women's sports in general. But tell us a bit about that deal. It's quite unique in certain ways. And again, how do you think Nike is looking at this, right? Because it's definitely a statement and it's amazing to see, but tell us a bit about that commercial side of the sport and how that resulted in your Nike deal, for example.
Yeah, so we reached out to them already from a different perspective, not saying like, hi, I'm a professional cyclist. Because I am a professional cyclist, but I do not see myself only as a professional cyclist. I want to be more. I want to be a professional athlete with a voice. I have the podium for it. Like I want to mean something for women's cycling or women's sports. So I think that was something what was for them really interesting because. Also, if you see my Instagram, for example, I show more than only cycling because for me it's important to tell my story. And I like to tell stories about how it happened to be that I became a professional cyclist. And I have so much passion for sports in general, just to give everything, to chase those dreams, to set those goals. So it's for me really important to have this bigger overview. But so that's how...
You think that's what Nike saw, right? Is they saw you as a brand more than and as you said, a voice, more than just a cyclist, right? Yeah. So that work you did before, you started already thinking about it before.
Exactly. Yeah. And then since we are trying really we really hope in the future that they will come back to cycling, of course.
And talking about doing things differently, like you mentioned to us, like briefly, in terms of contracts, like you have the rights outside of the team. Like, is this something common for do you see other colleagues doing this, or how did you manage to get this deal structured?
Should I try to answer this? I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, I'm also not from pro cycling, or I'm not a very experienced agent in cycling, or at least I was not. So I don't have the classic approach. And I think that made the biggest difference also in reaching out to partners like Nike, because it's different what they get from me, because we totally aim different towards a deal. And I think the rights are very important in every sport. So of course everybody knows Cristiano Ronaldo, and they know in Formula One it's a little bit difficult, I heard, but you know that in sports it's very common that athletes are commercializing their own image and their own image rights. So what I think that we already started on working from an early stage is that we wanted to have a wide audience. So not only as a cyclist, but as an athlete, because you can go to active lifestyle, outdoor, whatever, running, all those things, which he also likes. That's also, of course, very very good, because if you have an athlete who doesn't like to do that, all those things, you cannot force them to do it. So it has to be authentic. And then we started working on that, and then we thought, we need those rights. So and then in a classic cycling contract, you have you sign for a team, and they have all your rights, and they commercialize it with their sponsors. And of course, you have a couple of very big ones like Cavendish. Why can he ride with a Monster helmet and with Nike cycling shoes, and the others not? I mean,
What do you think? Again, going with Mark, also an investor with Apex, and clearly he's got something different because he's a winner. But you see the way he is. Do you think, again, going down to brands and how they're, when they're picking the right partners, okay, they want winners, but they want more than that, right? They want
stories.
They want stories, exactly. And I think going into storytelling, why do you think there's a difference between men and women? Because I think, is it because women had to work for it, so they started to create more storytelling, so they're more appealing for brands, and they make that effort, and now brands recognize that? Or do you think that's inherent to just the difference between men and women? Because if I speak to any sponsor that or commercial partner, they always prefer to work with women. They're just better, proactive, more creative. Does it go down to the need, or just the difference between men and women?
I think both. I think it's also, I think all the women who are in sport now, they experienced how it was back in the days. So it's still, really aware of that we need sponsorships, and we're very grateful for all what's happening. So we also want to put our energy in that, because we know we need it. We need to do a bit extra. I always have the feeling we always need to put a little bit extra effort for those things, because it still needs to grow on all sides. But then on the other side, also, I think it's in nature of women to only do things which they are truly standing behind. Like they want to know everything 100% or at least 99% before they start doing something. And men, they are just a bit more like, they dare to gamble way more. So I think that's also something that if a woman is asked for doing something for a sponsor or whatever, they want to be involved. They want to know their story and what they want from her. And I think men, they're just like, okay, yeah, fine, I do it. And they maybe don't even know what they needed to do, but they just like, I'm getting it. They're more confident maybe from themselves. So I think their women's are trying always to do it very perfect.
Yeah, I think they engage more. The engagement is higher, and also they are more emotional in some ways, I think. And also the audience is, I think, with a lot of women is more engaged. I don't know. I think when a guy tells you should take this product because it is very good, you will recover faster, etc., etc. I think if a woman tells you the same thing, who should you believe?
It's like your mom telling you, no?
Yeah,
So you trust
I don't know.
Maybe it's coming from there,
I don't know if it is the difference between men or women, what you said, but I think it's a little bit of both. But what I see on the market is that a lot of brands are now aiming for women because they have a newer audience maybe also behind them, and they're much more persuasive or...
Yeah, and if you think on the brand's perspective, at the end of the day, maybe more than 50% of their clients are women, right? So, and that's why I always say, when you look at the future of women's sports, and a lot of people are talking about, media rights, commercial rights, a lot of different things, media rights is, at the end of the day, it's a result of eyeballs. I think it's still, there needs to be a bit of a cultural change for women to start to consume sports more. I think once there's more women product, will come. That's why I think, again, women product should be adapted to women. So women, but right now it's hard to say that the media rights will match the men's media rights, because right now still men consume sport more.
Yeah.
It will change, but not yet, right? On the other side, on the commercial rights, brands, they're already making more than 50% of, Nike probably makes more money with women than with men in terms of, selling, in terms of their clients. So they already see that potential. So they can already, invest more in women. And I think, again, that's why in the commercial, right, you quickly see an uplift. And that should be, you should always look at things rationally. Yes, there's a movement, there's important things that need to change on an equality standpoint. But at the end of the day, there's also a business, right? So it also needs to justify with rationality. And again, this year, you came second, right? And but I guess in another way, mentally, it was probably one of your biggest victories because of what happened. Can you tell us more about that, what happened, how you felt, from the crash until almost winning by 4 seconds? Does it have anything to do with you changing teams? Because, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so this year was for sure very, very interesting what all happened. And it's funny because I was very early in the tour already in the yellow jersey. I really didn't expect it to take already the yellow jersey in the Netherlands, in Rotterdam, after the TT. So that was really special, but it was also strange because coming to the Tour de France, I was kind of scared to not be able to win it again, because I felt a lot of pressure. Also, I made the pressure myself because I really, really wanted to, of course. But almost the fear of losing was almost bigger as the will of winning. And yeah, that's strange because it should be the other way around, So when I was already in the yellow jersey in the Netherlands, I was a bit surprised. I was like, I had the feeling this was going to be so much more difficult this year. But I was already after stage 3 in the yellow. So it was, for me, really special. And then, stage 5, I crashed. And actually, during that crash, I was not even thinking about yellow when I was on the ground, because I had so much pain on that moment. So riding to the finish, then of course, at one point I realized, shit, I have this yellow on my shoulders and I'm gonna lose it for sure now. So I tried to push out everything to the line, but still I lost 2 minutes or something. And then going into the final 3 days, like the day after.
2 minutes in 3 days is could be eternity, right?
Yeah. So the day after stage 6, I could not really do something. And also I needed to recover. I had a lot of pain. So I was just happy that I could finish in the bunch. I didn't lose any more time. Then stage 7 was very interesting for me. I think there was the biggest win. I never told this story to anyone, actually, but I had a massive panic attack on the bike before the last climb. So I was before that last climb, and at one point
What did you get panic attack?
Yeah, what is a panic attack in the bike?
Huh?
How is a panic attack in the bike?
It was the worst thing what could happen to me. Like, I just wanted to quit. I just wanted to stop, put my bike on the side of the road and lay in the grass. I could only think about that. It was so strange, and I was getting really warm, and I felt I didn't have control about my breathing anymore, and I lost myself in the bunch. So I had no idea where I was riding in the bunch. It was actually dangerous because if something happens, I was not able to react really fast because I was so stuck in my head. So I remember that this feeling was coming up. Also, the race was very boring. It was just controlled, and we were riding towards that climb. So I had the time to think about it, and never something like that happened to me before. So I didn't also know how to react on it. And normally I'm really good. Like, it always happens that some negative thoughts come up in a race, because a race is most of the time around 4 hours. So of course you will have a moment that you think like, oh, my legs are shit today, or something like this. But on that moment I knew I could not stop it, and it was so weird. So I was on that bike and I just was lost in the peloton, and then I remembered like, yeah, I just want to quit, and I saw all the people, like the media, my friends, family, my team, who were angry at me that I quit, and nobody would have understand me. So I felt so much pressure in that time, and I had a feeling like someone was choking me. I could almost not breathe. So, and then a teammate came past me and she asked me, "Demi, you need something?" Because I go to the car for bottles. But I barely could say like no. So I was really like, no, like, so she went to the car. She did not really realize what was happening. And then another teammate was close by and I was like, I need to tell someone I have this panic attack. So I went up to a teammate, Misha, and also she's someone who I trust. And also she developed herself a lot with a sports psychologist, so I knew that if I would go to her, she would probably, maybe, hopefully have some advice for me or just to calm me a bit down. And it was not so much also that I expected from her something, but more that I could empty my heart with her, and that was the thing. So I went to her and I said, Misha, I'm not going well, but I could barely say it. And so she directly saw it. So she said, like, Demi, it's okay. You're not a machine. It's normal that you feel so much pressure. So I was like, it's true. So then some pressure disappeared, and we were riding towards that climb, and she said to me, like, stay in my wheel. I bring you to the front. Just stay in my wheel. Everything comes okay. I tried to stay in her wheel, but after 2 seconds, I lost her already because I was not there. But then I don't know how I did it, but the climb came up. I was lucky that I reckoned that climb 2 times. So I knew the running up to that climb very well. So I don't know what happened, but suddenly it's always very chaotic, of course, for a climb, because everybody wants to be in the front. So it's one big fight. And I thought I'm not able to do this fight in this mental status, but I ended up to start from the front on the climb. And then I remember I was just hanging on, and I just told myself, just hang on. And at one point, we were over the first climb, little downhill, and I still was not really myself. I was suffering a lot. It was really hard for me.
And at the time, you had to recover, or how much? How long in terms of time? Still 2 minutes, or you already were?
Yes, still the 2 minutes. Yes. So then the little downhill, and then the last part of the climb. So this little downhill came, and I don't know how or what I was thinking, but I just did one attack, and then I was totally back in control again. It was really funny to me to realize, like, by doing this one attack, that I took all the power again, because I think it was also the nerves. So I put this attack. It was a very stupid attack. Of course, I didn't go out because it was still a little bit of downhill.
But it clicked something in your mind.
Yes, like my mind and my body, they were back in connection again, because now I made the others a bit suffer. So now I did it myself. And then I was totally back in the game again. And then we played the game. Also, towards the end, I always find this mood. If as soon as I smell the finish line, I change, or something changed in the mind, you know. So in the end, I even won from the bunch there. There were still 2 riders in front or 3 riders in front. So in the end, it was still a good result. But for me, knowing what I all survived in that stage, I had, after the race, I directly knew, if I could do this, I can do anything. So then also the next day, I just thought, okay, fuck it, I go very early. And then I attacked with 60 kilometers to go. And maybe now looking back, it was maybe not the best decision, because at one point, so I needed to make up 140 minutes. And at one point in the race, I was already back in the yellow, but then on the last climb, yes.
We know very well Formula One. There's, before a race, it's strategy. You have 5 or 6 different scenarios that things change, and obviously there's massive strategy with cycling. But it's a 4-hour race, and there's the physical element to it. How do you pre-plan the races strategy wise, and then how do you adapt? And all this communication with the team. Of course we see it a bit, but how does it work? And is it sort of go with the flow, or you have a plan and you need to stick to it? How does that work?
Yeah, maybe like normally you make a bit more plans. So also for that last stage, for example, we made a plan. If I felt really good, because I was still recovering, I had a fracture in my back. I didn't know at the time. I only realized it after the tour, but I had a lot of pain. So if I felt good, I would attack already early on the Glandon. So that was the first climb of that day. So yeah, if I felt good and I had not too much pain, then I should attack already like early on the Glandon. If I felt not so good, then I should wait after the Glandon and only do my attack on the Alpe d'Huez. But then I felt in between. So I attacked only the last 3K of the Glandon, I think. But yeah, so you make a little bit more plans.
And in communication with the team all the time, or?
Yeah, so you make the plan before the race together. You sit together with the team, with all your teammates. So they also know what their jobs in that race are going to be. And then during the race, you have the communication with your teammates and the team car behind. So you can always talk with them. Communication is key again. So it's very important to communicate very well how you're feeling and what you're thinking, because it can also be that other teams are gonna do a way different race that you were thinking of. So then you also need to adjust,
But I think what is also interesting, what you said, is like going back to the first stage. You took the yellow jersey. You were leading over your competitors for the yellow 30 seconds maybe or more on some. But you once said to me that you also heard from everybody, you are gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean, also when you crashed, they didn't obviously know. They didn't put her in a scan or whatever, so they didn't know that something was broken. But she was saying, I experienced a lot of pain, and media were writing, why did you not stand up or jump on your bike? If you fell and you were in yellow, just jump on your bike and ride straight away to the finish. And she was like feeling all strange things in her legs, and
one leg was not really, I didn't have the power over, so
it
was normal that it took time before I could go down to the floor again to grab my bike. But yes, like after I crashed, everybody was saying, the media, my team, everybody was saying, but the big mountains still need to come, so Demi comes good.
But how do you deal with all this? Like, you have your lifestyle in Switzerland, like spending time with your dogs, with Jan, like I think like you're Demi out of the competition world. Like, how do you deal with all this pressure and also managing your social media and managing all the structure as an athlete? Like, how do you deal with those two worlds?
Oh yeah, like
that's a lot.
Like during the Tour de France, of course, I don't do so much with that, but then after, or when it's a bit calmer period, then I can do a bit more on social media for sure. But you really need to find of course a balance in that. And also, it's like social media is a really nice place if it goes really well with you. But then on the other hand, if you lose, for example, because of you did a stupid mistake, for example, then social media can also be a very bad place to be. So then it's just the key to not go there too often, to try to lift a little bit on the sideline, because it can really, if you all read what people are saying about you then from the couch, you also need to think like they're just sitting on the couch watching TV. So it's very easy for them to say very harsh things sometimes. But
I think it's also important that you have a really good team behind you. Like I remember that Demi was riding up the Alpe d'Huez, and we thought, she's not riding fast enough. I mean, this normally would have gone faster. So I was already saying to her parents and other people who were there with us, something is wrong. Like the back is locked up, or I was already thinking after the crash. Because with my medical background, I also made some few calls to people who were there, because that one day I wasn't there, like put her in a scan or whatever, because there is something going on with her body. I immediately thought this is wrong. But then if you were riding up that, then we thought, that's maybe not going to happen. And then losing by 4 seconds is obviously crazy, because you can also win it by 2 seconds or whatever. The margin is so small. But I remember that I immediately thought, okay, like I was fine with it. I mean, you were very disappointed, and a lot of other people I saw very disappointed. But I thought my only job is to go and see Demi and say, hey, it's fine. I mean,
I guess it's what you were saying, right? It's sometimes it's when you get there, it's when the pressure of doing it again. Right? You're more afraid of, keeping the Tour de France title than sort of thinking about winning it again, because it's the pressure and it's expected. You fall 2 minutes and people just expect, but Demi will get back. It's good. It's the demonstration that people trust you, but it's at the same time, you're very, it's very easy to also, go back down and so I guess dealing with that is definitely the mental side of things, right?
Yeah, like now the worst happened. Like my fear of losing was bigger than the will of winning almost. And by losing this Tour de France, I realized this afterwards. So it was a big lesson for me. Of course, not on the right time, because of course I wanted to have won the Tour de France way more than losing it. But I've learned a lot from this. And I think it will also help in my future that you just should focus more on how badly you want to win and not being scared of losing something.
Yeah, how you deal with those moments and what you learn from it. But, going into team, I think you guys, your career is exemplary, commercial side, but, also as a team, I think you've thought about always the business side, right? Investing side, and obviously how we got connected and, you really being one of the first female athletes to push for this. Why is that? What got you guys to think about business, about investing? Why do you think that's important for you as an athlete, particularly at this stage, right? Because you're in the peak of your career. We always tell athletes, that they should really start this when they're in the peak, because they're more commercially relevant, because it's the perfect moment to also set that platform. But how did you reach that conclusion on your own? Is that as a team? Does that come from Demi? Where do you want to go with that as well?
Yeah, for sure. I have surrounded myself with a lot of people with good knowledge, of course. That's very important, because as an athlete, you cannot do or know everything yourself. So for sure, Jan also has connection again. And then I think we heard first from...
I think it was Koen who reached out.
Yeah.
And then made the introduction and stuff. But I think it goes a little bit more back also, like back to the early stages of Demi's career. And why I said in the beginning, I think that she being a florist or working some jobs made her already a entrepreneurial athlete, and also a more successful athlete, I think. And then again, also, if you come from an entrepreneurial family with a large flower business, that already helps. And you are also fine with taking risk. Because you can also say, like, a new contract is 2 years. You can also say, hey, I'm at my peak of my career. I should do 4 or 5 years. Then I'm solid, you know. But you can also think, okay, if it grows so much, women's cycling,
and also
maybe take it a little bit less and do 2 years. Demi is always in the lead in this kind of stuff, but we just discuss it.
Amazing.
And we say to you, hey, you could do this, you could do that.
So
the contract, you thought, let's keep it 2 years, because then we can negotiate a higher number. So that's an investment. That's
taking the risk.
Right?
Yes.
Love it.
But also with investing, for example, in Apex, also for me at home, my dad always invested in things. So it was always like early stage Bitcoins. He was there. So always we had this conversation on the kitchen table. And me as a girl, I always listened, and he always telling me, you should invest your money. And I was like, yeah. But then...
Never told you how.
Yeah, but then at one point, like just before, also we were speaking about it, like what we gonna do with my money I earn now, because if you just keep it on the bank account, it's also not good. So we were searching already a way to invest my money. Timing. And then
I think coming back also to surrounding you with a group of people, we met some amazing people also in like the first real thing was like negotiating bigger contracts, you can do your homework, and that's fine. And you are meeting people, and you can talk about it. But you need to have a very good lawyer. That's for sure. So you have to know somebody who is aligned with your vision. So if we want image rights for Demi, or we find that it's important commercially, then we should have somebody who backs that and not thinks in a very classical, traditional way. We have to find that lawyer. So we found him. And then he just connects you. If you have the same vision and you share the same strategy, then he can connect you also to some people. And like, I think that's also, I'm a networker, I think, so I'm happy to do that. Demi as well, but he doesn't have much time for it. So we are very complementary there. And I think then after a lawyer, the family office came, a very nice individual structure in Switzerland, who is really also believing in what Demi is trying to achieve as a female athlete, is backing me up and helping her. So then you have already surrounded yourself with a nice group of people who can advise you on some things. And then Apex came at the right time, and then.
And I guess when you have that structure, right, the team, the wealth management side of things, the lawyer, then you can also let's think that next step, because Apex is obviously a next step, right? It's not fundamental part. It's something that if it's important for you, you're going to invest in the future of sports with other athletes. But it's a nice to have, let's say, right? And we see that with our athletes. The ones that really go there consciously, it's the ones that are organized. Because the ones that are not, they need to solve that first before they and clearly, you have that. And that's and in terms of, one challenge that we had when we, with Apex is going into the women's side, right? So obviously there's less capital still in the women's side. So naturally our first athletes were male. It reached the point where they just a bit too much, right? And we were, we spoke to some women, and we thought the problem is purely on a capital standpoint, so let's reduce the minimum. And we were still not clicking with, and not bringing we started to realize that it goes down to as well, women are much more risk averse, and they make conscious decisions, as you were saying, right? Even and male are more, maybe go with the others. If the other guys are there, I'll go. If it's cool, but it's the rest of a rational decision. And we started to realize, that women, it's about how you communicate the risks and the upsides and what you gain from it. But definitely, it was something that goes down to the women have different mindsets. And finally, we started to do it now. Of course, you've been pioneer, but speaking to other women, and what would you tell them, for them to start to look at the investment side, or how would you tell Apex, this is how you should explain the Apex investments to other women?
So for me, the really nice thing from Apex is that it's actually a two-direction investment, because like I invest, of course, my money, but I get a lot back. Like you get a network, but also you get in contact with very cool startups or companies which can help you in the end with your professional career. So I think that's a really important part for me, and the nice thing about it, that you can really do more. Like I can share also my experience about being a professional athlete or well-being or that kind of thing. So I know I have a value also to share. And I get also things back from that. And that's the newest startups, working with them, or like there is also like still so many research is done on men. And if we want to change the women's sport, we should make sure that more research will be done on women. And how we're going to do that is also if women invest in this. So I believe by also investing, then you also show you're there. And then also you guys also can think of, what research are going on in women's side of sports. So I think that's also an interesting part.
Yeah. Guys, so we are running out of time. So
unfortunately,
I think
I had a lot of stuff, but that was
an ongoing conversation, but we should go on to the rapid fire questions. So these are to you, Demi. very fast questions.
Okay.
Yeah, you ready?
Yes.
What's your go-to recovery meal after a tough ride?
Yeah.
Fast questions.
Yeah, when I'm with the team, then of course a pasta, a lot of carbs with some proteins.
Good. If you could ride anywhere in the world for a week, where would it be?
I would really love to go to New Zealand one time.
Nice. What's one personal value you refuse to compromise?
Like being independent, being free, like deciding my own time, what I want to do, and yeah, that kind of things.
Good.
Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur. She wants independence. What cycling-related goal you are still striving to achieve?
Yeah, winning multiple times the Tour de France, of course, but also becoming a world champion and hopefully Olympic champion.
Good. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Yeah, now I'm sitting here. I know you guys know Max Verstappen, for example, also pretty well. He's a very interesting guy.
But I know somebody who would you love to go to dinner with.
But then,
There is one. You just don't come up with it now. The
So-
basketball player.
Kobe Bryant.
yes, but he's not there anymore.
Yeah, but you said historical.
Yeah, historical.
Ah.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I think we can now go to. There's one particular question from Mitch Evans, who you met last night, and you know, of course, one of the founders of Apex. And he's something very simple. I think he probably asks himself sometimes: is if you could start your life again, would you take the same career path? Would you make the same choices?
Yes. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
And
perfect question.
final question, well, yeah, which comes from a fan. We put out some requests from some of our fans and followers. The question is, as a professional cyclist, do you have any other professions or interests outside of your cycling career? And how do you manage that? I mean, I think we've already sort of answered, but...
Yes, I have a lot of interests and I just love to be outside. So everything what is movement outside in the mountains, I really love.
The other question we also got from a fan is if the menstrual cycle affect your training or it can affect your race as a woman in sports. So
Yes, it definitely can affect. I'm not doing differently in trainings, for example, at the moment, because I have the feeling there's not enough evidence to take that into your trainings, but you definitely feel the differences. So in the races also, I feel sometimes the differences, and I'm always really happy if I'm in the right cycle during important races, because then you know also sometimes it's more mentally you're so motivated or just a little bit more insecure. So it's really important, of course, to have there also the right.
But then again, we need, effectively women athletes to give us inputs, right? And is this really a problem? If so, what's the best way to solve it? Is this something really investable? Exactly what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
Without the inputs from women athletes, we're never going to be able to really look at the best ways of solving problems in women's sports. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's.
I think
that's
that's to
it.
finish.
No?
We need you to leave a question for our next guest. So
Who is the next guest?
we don't know.
Oh,
So it will be a
We
surprise.
have a strong idea.
Does he watch women cycling or something?
Is that
Actually, no. He cycles himself. He's a MotoGP rider.
Yeah, interesting people always. Like I find the Formula One drivers and the MotoGP guys, or women who race now, always interesting because of the speed. I mean, that's also a thing
Yeah.
with you on the bike. I mean,
yeah. How you deal with.
anxiety. Or,
Yeah, because for sure you also have this anxiety, but also I can also imagine that if you're in that moment, you don't feel it anymore. But then it's more before, I think. So you know before a race that you are going to take those risks. Yeah. What?
How do you manage those risks?
managing risk, like an investment.
Yeah.
Like an investment, like signing a contract. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, guys, for coming. It was a nice talk. And yeah, we'll keep it going.
As well.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
That was really nice.
All right.